Okay, so let's start wrap a little earlier than Pastor Love usually does it, but okay. How's everybody doing? Good. That's awesome. Okay, Lord, bless our time here. Just bless Pastor Love traveling today, special traveling mercies, Lord, please. These crazy days that we're living, especially if he's on the road for long periods of time. Just protect his vehicle and himself also, Lord. Just give him a great time, great trip and enjoyable time. So we commit this time to you now, this wrap. Lord, bless, please, and anoint your word here. Thank you. In Christ's name, amen. Okay, I wanted to, if we had a turn to a verse, we can turn to 2 Timothy chapter 3. Excuse me. I ended up doing this rap. I don't know how, because I had given up the idea of doing raps for the sake of having a singing career, which I'm embarking on, and but maybe I'm losing my voice. God has other ideas. I'm not sure where I'm going, with the whole thing. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 7. Verse we're very familiar with, ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. Ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. And we have read this many times and all of the verses above it as well, speaking of the perilous times we're living, etc., and the many spirit trends that we're seeing in these last days. And one of them is ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. I was asking God a lot lately and saying to God, I really like to understand what people are thinking or how people are thinking more. I feel like when I'm soul winning, I don't have that picture so good. There are many things going on we can discover through observation, through reading the newspapers or whatever. But I was thinking about this idea of ever learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. And I'm reading a book by a man by the name of Michael Sandel. He wrote a book called Justice, and he's not a Christian, secular guy. I think he's a professor in one of the big Ivy League schools. But he talks about various ways that people think about justice, or in other words, my own value system of justice is what. And he starts the book out by talking about what he calls utilitarianism. Now, that's a big word, but what it simply means is that many people, they go through life with pain versus pleasure. Their criterion for judgment is pain on the one side and on the other side, pleasure. And they got me thinking about that a little bit. And I'm not saying this to expose anybody here, but I just thought about how many decisions I have made in my life, even as a Christian, that were based on matriculating towards pleasure, matriculating away from pain, you know? Like, I don't want pain, you know? I don't need pain in my life, you know? And I think we have like maybe a little bit of a secret life where, you know, somebody asks us, hey, would you want to do such and such? Oh, no, I'm busy that day. What we're really saying is, there's a lot of pain in that, isn't there? You know, what are you talking about? Like getting in front of people, or you know, something that causes pain. I just want us to think about it. I'm not trying to really make a big deal out of it, but I thought to myself, you know, really at the grassroots of my life, pain and pleasure mean a lot. You know, whether a situation is going to give me pain or pleasure has a lot to do with my decision making through concession. I don't think that's the right way to think about things, but I think that's the way that we honestly do many times. So the thing is, this guy, Jeremy Bentham, he tried to put together a whole philosophy of utilitarianism and tried to spell it out so that everybody could really, you know, say, yeah, pain versus pleasure. That's a viable way to think about justice. It's a viable way to think about life. So in the book that Michael Sandel wrote, he talks about another guy by the name of Thorndike who came up with a value scale. And his idea was to prove utilitarianism is a valid thesis. So what he did, I'm sorry, my voice is not so great. What he did is he tried to establish a common currency for pain and pleasure. So he did an evaluation with a group of people, and he asked them 5 questions. Question number 1, how much money would it take for you to have one of your upper front teeth pulled out? Now think about it. We're going to pull out one of your upper front teeth. What would that cost you? I mean, how much money would we have to pay you to do that? Question number 2. By the way, this was done back in 1937, and the answer came back $4,500. It was a lot of money back then. The next question was, how much money would it take for us to cut one of your little toes off your foot, cut off your little toe off your foot? Well, that came back $57,000. So people were saying, that's a lot worse, you know. That's a lot worse deal, you know. Then the next question was, how much money would it take for you to eat a live earthworm 6 inches long? $100,000, people said the consensus was. So The whole idea is Thorndike's trying to put a value on things that bring pain or pleasure. And these ones bringing pain, apparently. And now this one is going to turn your stomach a little bit. I'm sorry, but it's in the. But he said the next one was how much. Yeah, keep eating. Don't worry about it. Everything will be all right. How much money would it cost us if you would choke a cat to death with your bare hands? Interesting, they dropped down to $10,000. You sense a little bit funny. What do you mean? Well, that should be worth a whole lot more, shouldn't it? Well, the truth of the matter is, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do any of these, I don't think, but they're putting a price on everything. The last one was this. How much would it cost you to live the rest of your life on a farm in Kansas, 10 miles from the nearest town, and you have to live the rest of your life there? What would be the price? What could we pay you to do that? $300,000 was the answer that came back. And of course, that's like $300 million now, because that was 1937. So the idea was, and the truth of the matter is what came out in the survey was something that I think we all know. If we push pain and pleasure to the nth degree, we're going to find out it's really not a valid system of judging things. He gives some other examples. And this is one also that is a hard one to digest a little bit, but in ancient Rome, they threw Christians to the lions in the Colosseum through the amusement of the crowd. The Christian suffers excruciating pain as the lion mauls and devours him, but think of the collective ecstasy of the cheering spectators packing the Colosseum. So we have something here. This is provoking our thinking. We're probably all disgusted by now, but the thing is, something now is extremely pain-causing. On the other hand, there's another group of people that are getting extreme pleasure out of that pain. Another example he gives is this. A terrorist is captured and believed to know the whereabouts of a time bomb. What ethic allows officials to torture the terrorist in hopes of stopping a catastrophe? Well, the envelope is pushed here. The utilitarian must decide if he will become a humanitarian. Lives depend on the right decision. Is torture an option? Should we do nothing? Well, who will be responsible for the lives lost if the bomb explodes? It raises a lot of questions. And the truth of the matter is, the more and more we think about the whole principle of pain and pleasure, we realize that maybe we need a higher ethic. Maybe we need to really set a different kind of standard. And the truth of the matter is a lot of people, myself included, before I was saved, I embraced this whole idea of pain and pleasure. I was a hippie, it was back in the 60s, 70s. But what happened with me is when some of the extremes happened, my philosophy really went out of the window because I realized I'm not really a pain-pleasure person. I have a moral value system. There's morals involved in some of these difficult decisions, And when people are pushed in their philosophy to the point of extreme cases, a lot of times they realize, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. Really, I am more of a moralist, don't hurt people, I don't want to hurt nobody, kind of thing, just to get pleasure. But my thought was this: people change all the time. Life is changing people. Like when we meet people, that guy might be saying, well, yeah, I believe this, yeah. But you meet him 5 years later, he might say, well, I don't believe that anymore. I believe this. Yeah, people are changing. And here's something that I really thought was very interesting, is that people, they think of life like this a lot of times. Life is a learning experience. Unsaved people, they think in terms of life is one big learning experience. Like I'm learning, I'm moving, and I'm learning something. I'm learning something as I go. Once we get a couple of these philosophical changes under our belt, like moving in my personal life, I moved away from that whole pain pleasure thing. I started becoming more of a weirdo in the sense of embracing things like transcendental meditation and so I'm thinking I'm not into that weird stuff anymore. I'm over here in this weird stuff over here, But I wasn't calling it weird. I was saying I found the answer. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know if this has ever happened with you. You've probably never had any changes in any of your lives, in your philosophies, the way you think. But I have. I've had many, many, many changes. I am just really selling my whole soul on a certain philosophy, and then 4 or 5 years later realizing, what the heck was I thinking, something different. And I'm talking about unsaved people. This is how I believe unsaved people think this way, or like this. And why is it? Is because they're ever learning yet never able to they can't come to the knowledge of the truth because the devil's got to keep them ever learning. And that's the ploy. The ploy of the enemy is to keep people ever learning, ever able to look at the next thing, or there's something better. If only I can get to the next thing. If only I can get something better in my life, a better philosophy of life, and I'll get it by experience. I'll get it by learning. I'll get it by continuing. And so, so anyhow, what's my point? My point is this. Lost souls can spend a lifetime philosophizing about what they believe. There's enough stuff out there that somebody can go from one thing to the next, and they could spend a whole lifetime doing that without getting saved, is what I'm saying. You're probably thinking, is Tom Sleva even saved? Did he, is that guy up there speaking, did he ever get saved? I mean, or has he just jumped to a new philosophy to philosophy? But every couple of years, something may change. Listen to this statement, though. Sometimes life teases a person to have hopes of figuring things out. People think, well, I don't know everything right now, or I just had a setback, but I think I can figure things out. I don't know if you meet the same kind of people I meet all the time, but I meet people like this all the time. They feel like, maybe I don't have it perfect, but I could figure it out. I know how to do it. I mean, I could figure it. Because, why? Because life teases us into thinking that. Like, I think, well, I'm an intelligent human being, Like, I have enough equipment that I can figure out, eventually, how it's supposed to go. And that's what we're up against a lot of times. I mean, guys, people don't get saved because they think that. You know, they think, oh no, yeah, I'll work things out. Yeah, yeah, I got my own personal thing. Yeah. Experience means a lot to people, and maybe this is the answer why our universities suck up to these crazy leaders and these teachers who bring in these these philosophies of life that like are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? As a Christian, like we've discerned these things like years ago, you know. But no, why do I need to examine what socialism means? Why do I need to examine what communism means?